Welcome friends. Natural resources. We had 2 videos already. In the first video we discussed about the flow chart with regard to natural resources. We had the concept of natural resources in a nutshell there. In the second video we discussed in detail about the importance of water as regards living beings are concerned, especially humans. Now third video we will discuss about the rest of the natural resources. Water is the key one. What about soil? If soil is not there, where do you have a place to stay? Earth is made, the topmost layer of the earth is soil. Soil, forests, wildlife, fossil fuels, mineral resources. So 5 more natural resources we discuss other than water. We know how important is water. Without water, living beings cannot survive at all. Now we come to soil. What is soil? It is a natural resource that provides minerals and water to all land plants. The entire plant world draws its minerals from the soil. Minerals are drawn from the soil. Water is drawn from the soil. Most of the members of the plant world, they all get anchored to the ground. Anchoring. They send their roots into the soil, hold the soil well with the primary and secondary and tertiary roots, and stand upright. For a huge plant to thrive on land, it has to send the roots deep into the ground. It is always said, you have as much root system as you have the shoot system in big plants. If it is a tree, a mango tree or a banyan tree or a tamarind tree, as much as you see as the shoot system above the ground, you have the root system intact below the ground, without which the plant will not be able to stand upright. There is 1:1. The two, shoot system and the root system, they are 1:1. So, for all land plants, the soil provides the minerals and water too. Soil holds the water. From the soil, roots absorb the water and the water is sent to the shoot system. In a very systematic way, as per the requirement of the plant, water is drawn from the ground. So, soil becomes the substratum. The word is substratum. Soil becomes the substratum in which all the plants grow and flourish. Now let's say we are discussing about soil. What about the quality of soil? Before we plant, we always check the quality of the soil. A farmer always checks the quality of the soil of his field. Then he decides what is it short in, what are the shortcomings of the soil. Will the nature of the soil enable the plants to grow well or not? He goes to the experts with a handful of soil from his field, gets it checked up. So soil quality has deteriorated nowadays, we say. It is not that quality of soil what we saw 100 years ago. What is it due to? It is because of the continuous use of soil. Continuously, we have been growing. When we go to the prehistoric man, it was not like that. He grew in a particular field, next time he moved to another place, he grew there. So soil too used to get rest. Soil too needs rest. You can't grow continuously farm plants in a particular field. After 2 or 3 years, you give some rest to that soil for about an year. So first one, salinization of the soil. The soil becomes saline. What is salinity? Salinity pertains to the amount of soil, amount of salt in the soil. The more the salt, we say the salinity is more. In coastal areas, the sea water sometimes enters in at the time of high tides. When there is a high tide, the sea water enters in. Farmers get disturbed totally because the water from the sea that enters in through the rivers and that gets spread into all the fields will render the soil saline. Salinity gets increased and plants wither and dry. They dry out. They don't grow at all. So salinization of the soil will render the soil useless for the farmer to take up agriculture. Second one, waterlogging. Certain lands, certain fields, because of their position or maybe because of the structure of the land all around, in the rainy season, water may get logged. It's a waterlogging area. The water gets bogged. We call such farms as bogs. If there's too much of water, you will not be able to grow anything. Maybe to a certain extent rice can be grown, but wheat, jowar and all in a waterlogged field, you will not be able to grow them at all. So waterlogging, what does it mean? Water gets stagnated in the field. In the rainy season, for weeks together, for months together, water gets logged. It's a waterlogged area, you will not be able to grow. Waterlogging. Now here, when we discuss the soil, we are not discussing soil of a particular field. In general, soil in different parts of the country or the world, in general we discuss and find out what is it that bothers farmers as regards the quality of the soil is concerned. Third one, fertile lands turn barren and useless. Now because of salinization, because of waterlogging, the farmlands, the agricultural lands, the fields, they turn and they become barren and useless. If there is too much of salinity, you will not be able to grow. When you don't grow, you call that field as a barren field. A field where you will not be able to grow anything, it's barren. It won't give you a rich harvest at all. Plants do not grow with all vigor. So barren, it becomes useless now. It won't repay him. Desertification, such lands slowly, if the same situation continues, they may turn into deserts. Even the failure of rainfall will turn the land into a desert. Too much of sun, it may make the land turn into a desert. So moisture content in the air, the rain, the temperature, all these account for, and the land may turn into a desert. Lot of lands in the world which were very fertile for decades, they became barren after some time. They turned to be barren. Excessive irrigation rendering soil useless. What we had been discussing just now. See, land in Haryana and Punjab, two states in India, Haryana and Punjab, they used to grow gold. They used to grow very well in their fields. So the output was very good. Harvests were rich. But today, scientists feel the fertility of the soil is slowly deteriorating. What may be the reason? Farmers must have used too much of fertilizers. If you add fertilizers, you get a rich harvest. Growth will be very good. So without checking the quality of the soil, without going in a scientific way, you just purchase artificial fertilizers and add them to the soil. It works for a year or 2 or 3, but later the soil will lose its basic nature. The bacteria there die. The organisms like earthworms and all, they die because too much of fertilizer has changed the chemical nature of the soil itself. So, excessive irrigation, using the soil beyond the normal degree, required level, becoming too selfish in getting as rich a harvest as possible. What do? You go on adding fertilizers, and that makes the soil lose its basic fertility, natural fertility. In olden days, only the manure, the gobar you get from the cattle, that was being added to the soil. They never used to make use of too much of fertilizer as such. And that too, what they used was cattle fertilizer. But in the last 80 to 100 years, man has given into the use of artificial fertilizers. Artificial fertilizers change the very nature of the soil. Components are chemical components. Chemical components, they bring about a big change in the kind of soil you have. So in the long run, the farmer gets defeated, rendering soil useless. It makes the soil useless. Now the agricultural scientists, specialists are warning them, be careful when you use. You have to plan out before you use fertilizers. And it's a commercial word. You get lots of fertilizers in the market and they say, add this, put that, put this, mix this, you get rich harvest. They want to sell. They don't think in respect of what you have in your field. So too much of fertilizers being used is not good for any farmland. Erosion. Lot of rain, water flows. As water flows, the loose soil gets swept away. The loose soil of the farm, the loose soil on the mountain sides, it gets swept away. That is what you call as erosion. It will get mixed up with the river water. The river will become shallow. The amount of water that the river can transport, that goes down. The dams get filled up with lot of the eroded soil contents. Dams become shallow. So erosion leads to deforestation. In the last season, we have seen in Coorg how forests were getting swept down by the flood waters coming from the mountain tops. So deforestation takes place. All these do not happen for one single reason. There will be a multitude of reasons, all working hand to hand with other aspects, and the result will be deforestation. The human element too will be there. We want to cut down forests and build houses there. We want to have plantation crops grown on the mountain slopes, coffee, rubber, tea. So man, being a selfish creature, he starts converting forests into plantation areas. Then he wants to build houses. Then he wants hefty roads there. he wants recreation. Lots of people, they try to build guest houses on the forest slopes. No doubt, scenic beauty is there, people from cities, they come and stay. But ultimately, what is the casualty? The casualty is that forests vanish. When you cut down some trees in a few hectares of land, that will have its impact on plants and trees growing over the rest of the mountain slope. The whole mountainside will start suffering from soil erosion, and ultimately it becomes barren. Now, what we need here is soil conservation. Do everything what is required to see that soil erosion is stopped. Soil has to be conserved. Hills and mountains cannot lose their heights. The soil cannot get eroded like that. And the soil that gets eroded will fill up the lowlands. Mountain soil is different from the farm soil. All these will have an impact. Ultimately, the root cause is increase in human population and is selfish endpoints. Soil erosion has to be prevented. Soil conservation is the need of the hour, and it has to be taken very seriously. Illegal purchase of lands on mountain slopes will have to come to a halt. It has to be halted. We have to preserve the forests. We have to conserve them. We will move to the second one now, forests. As we were discussing soils, we were discussing about forests too. We will see. Maintain water cycle. Why should we have forests? If you have vast lands which are forests, that will maintain the water cycle. The water cycle gets maintained. What is water cycle? The sea and ocean water, water from the lakes, ponds and rivers getting evaporated into the sky, clouds getting formed, and these clouds giving the needed rainfall, and again the water that pours going into the rivers from there to the sea. This is a cycle. You call it as water cycle. The water cycle should be efficient. It should be good. It should bring laurels to the community. So maintain water cycle. Don't do anything that may disturb the water cycle. Habitat for wildlife. Remember, if the forests are felled, the immediate impact is on the wildlife. In the Western Ghat area now we find the wildlife, they have started penetrating into the villages. They disturb. When they have their shelter itself being invaded by man, where else can they go? They start invading villages. So, wildlife, they have an important role to play. We should keep in mind the health of wildlife. Always is an indicator of human welfare. How are your forests and wildlife? Are they keeping well? Yes, you too will be able to have a good life then. We can't live at their cost. I told you, 80% of India, 85% of India had a rich cover of forests in 1900. Today, 130 years over, nearly 120 years over, 3/4 of the forests have vanished. We have only 1/4 of the forests remaining. That's about 20%, less than 20%. These forests are also dwindling. Just imagine what will be the position in the coming years. The rainfall is not systematic, it's not organized. You don't have the seasonal impact. You get rains when you don't desire. You get rains in those months when you would not have desired or expected rains. And when you get rains, It's not a distributed one. Heavy rains. Starts raining cats and dogs. There will be flood, human destruction, destruction of the property, destruction of agricultural farms. So we have to see that these forests are maintained very well. Law too will have to play a very clear cut. It should be very clear cut. Those who offend should be put behind bars. Forest land should be reserved only for forests. They should not be converted into agricultural or industrial land. Even to build industries, many times we give up forests without thinking, without having a foresight about the future. Prevent soil erosion. If trees grow well, naturally trees are growing very well on a mountain slope or a slopy land, you will have very little soil erosion. If the plants are not there, their roots are not there to hold soil, automatically the soil gets swept down. You will have heavy floods and soil erosion everywhere. Timber and other useful products. I need not go into detail. We have lot of benefits from the forest producers. Forests make our economy rich. Forests see that we get rainfall in time. We get lot of products from forests. So we need to take interest in maintaining our forests, and that is considered as an indicator of natural wealth. How is the wealth of this country? Natural wealth. Look at the forests and decide. If the forests are flourishing wealth, the nation is healthy and wealthy. Deforestation in the last 20-30 years. I repeatedly told that. In the last 20-30 years, after 1980s and 90s, forests are dwindling very fast. Lot of corruption. Bureaucrats are also playing into the hands of these land lobbies, mafias, cutting forests. It's going on at a big rate, on a wide scale. And we are a witness to what is happening around us. Deforestation in the last 20-30 years, now only 20% of world's original forests intact. This is not just pertaining to India alone. It is happening elsewhere. Civilization is taking a huge lot of the forests. Now only 20% of world's original forests intact. 80% has disappeared. And our eyes are on this 20% now. If the governments keep their eyes closed, the society thinks it is in no way connected with the public, definitely we lose a part of this 20% too. And to bring up a new forest is not an easy job. Plants do not grow that well easily. It has to be a natural growth. For a tree to grow, it will take 20-30 years. But cutting the forest, it's a question of a day or two or 1 month. You can clear the entire area. And once you cut forests in an area, the new forest that you want to grow will not have a speedy growth. It's not easy to, because these forests have come up over millions of years. And these 20-30 years we saw the world giving up most of its forests. Pattern of rainfall affected, we said. If you have very little forests, the seasonal rainfall will get affected. It will not be systematic, orderly, well spread. So that will be too disturbing for mankind. Water cycle disturbed. Now what is the only remedy for this? The only remedy we have, bring very rigid rules, strict rules, conserve forests and grow more forests. Wherever you have barren land, wherever you have land which is not being used, try to grow forests there. Find out what kind of forests you can have there, and the community has to take part. It's not enough if only the government takes interest and goes ahead. The community as such, people as such, the student community, they all have to take an active interest. So afforestation is the need of the hour. We will come to the third part, wildlife. It is closely linked with soil and forests. Species of animals and plants in the forest. What is wildlife? All those species of animals and plants in the forest, we call it as wildlife. Wild animals are there, wild plants are also there. When you say wildlife, don't think it's only the lion, tiger, elephant or the wolves. No, it's beyond that. All plants and animals growing in the wild, they are a part of wildlife. Diversity of organisms in forests, seas and oceans. We have a diverse form of animals and plants on land and in water. All these are taken note of. That is the wildlife. And these diverse forms are required. Single species growth. Say, you want forests, you will grow only eucalyptus over hectares of land, thinking that the pith of eucalyptus is useful in making rayon cloths. So we will be able to earn too. Your primary causes suffered here. A single species growth, you don't call it as a wild forest. It's an economic forest now. You are growing forest with an eye on money, with an eye on economy. You want to make money out of it. No, the kind of forests what we require should be those forests where you have diverse kinds of lives. All kinds of plants should be there. All kinds of plants, mixed up, grown well. Those should be the kind of forests we should have. So diversity of organisms in forests, seas and oceans. All these are what humanity requires in order to survive. Hunting. You can't allow people to hunt in forests. Poaching. Stealing or taking away animals for your economic good, for your profit. Veerappan was a great poacher. He was a poacher in Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala areas, and he used to enter Karnataka too. Later he was killed. He had killed around 2,000 elephants for their ivory. 2,000 elephants he had killed. His team had killed for ivory. So that is what you call as poaching for animal fur, or maybe the ivory they have, or any other. Sometimes even their babies are stolen and they are sent abroad, or they are sold to rich people abroad. Now all these come under that. Hunting, poaching, capturing animals, capturing the baby animals have seriously affected wildlife. Even snakes for their leather, snakes for their poison even, their poison. Even some of the rare varieties for being kept as exhibits, they are stolen, they are sold, they have a high price in the international market. Threat of extinction looming high. All this selfish outlook that man has rendered the very presence of animals in the forests. So extinction, what is extinction? A kind of species of animals, a particular species of animals, they just vanish. They vanish because they are killed. They are poached. They are captured. So, a particular species of animals which are economically very much needed from the viewpoint of the international market, they become extinct. Now what we require again here is conservation. For conservation, you should declare parts of the forest as national parks. Hunting should not be allowed there. Rules should be very strict. Mercilessly you have to come down on people who try to resort into socially negative activities. National parks, wildlife sanctuaries, bird sanctuaries. We have many in the country. We need many more, and they have to be governed very well. They can't, corruption again looming high in these wild forests. Seed banks. See, some trees, they may just vanish up without our notice. Later we find that particular tree is not being seen at all. You develop a seed bank for them, collect their seeds and keep them very well preserved for future. Gene banks. Now science has advanced like anything. Collect their genes and keep them in these gene banks. In case those trees become absolutely extinct, you can draw from the gene bank, again you can grow those plants. You know, a lot of research is going on whether you can get the genes of dinosaurs back and create them. At least for the generations to see how they were and how they used to move about. It's a big task, it's not easy. Or people who go to wars or very difficult jobs wherein their life is endangered, their genes are collected and kept in the banks. So, the wife at home who has lost her husband can get a child of her husband with the gene banks. So that's it, gene banks. Genetic resource centers, best of the genes of different species of animals and plants, collect them, preserve them. Sometimes even epidemic or pandemic diseases may kill one whole generation of animals. It's possible. A particular species of plants may disappear all of a sudden because their numbers have dwindled already. We do not know when they would become extinct. Okay, this is about wildlife. Now, we come to mineral resources. Another important, all these are resources, soil resources, forest resources, wildlife resources. The balance has to be there. In nature, we have to maintain their balance. Now minerals have a big market, a great market. Saying that you can't draw all the minerals from the ground and make the world suffer in the coming years. You have to be very specific in working out how much can be drawn from the store. If you draw too much, life will be at stake tomorrow. What are minerals? These minerals, for example, gold, silver, copper, iron, sulfur, aluminium, you have a long list to go. These minerals have got formed due to various types of geological processes in the earth. These did not happen in the last 1,000 years. They happened in the last millions of years, or may even run to 1 billion years. A continuous activity that went on has made these minerals get formed. That itself is a big story. And the minerals which are in store underground, we are drawing for our use, industrial use, have formed due to the Earth's geological processes. You have shown different minerals here. They are all different kinds of minerals. We need not go into specific cases now. They are non-renewable. We discussed in the first video itself. Non-renewable. You take out all the gold resources from the ground. Will gold again build up itself there? No. So you have to see that you are very specific in deciding how much of gold has to be drawn this year, next year, year after that. It has to be planned, keeping in view the future of mankind in mind. Non-renewable, you can't get them again and again under earth. They don't get renewed. Mining is the process of extraction. Mineral resources, minerals being extracted is called as mining. Sometimes you may have to just cut rocks and get them. Sometimes you may have to dig into the ground. Sometimes you may have to make big holes and go down and get them. So that's what you call as mining. Mining is the process of extraction. Some are free in nature. Gold is free in nature. There is no problem of extraction. Gold is there in nature as gold only. You directly get it as it is. But when it comes to aluminium, you don't get. Aluminium is in the form of bauxite. You have to dig bauxite, bring it out, and a long process is there how you can get aluminium from bauxite. So some of the minerals are available free. Some are in the form of compounds with other substances. So all these is studied under mineralogy, about minerals. It's a big science in itself again. Materials. Now minerals, gold, iron, copper, aluminium. These are all minerals. May be free in nature or in the form of compounds. Materials. Besides minerals, we have materials. Sand, stone, salts. These are all materials. They too need to be mined sometimes. Or sometimes you get them grown, get them manufactured. All these are possible. Mining has become more intense and widespread nowadays. It has caused severe environmental problems. Wherever mining activity is going on, the soil, nature of the soil gets disturbed. There will be a lot of mining activity all around. There can be floods. The forests there, they get dwindled because those who work, they have to build their houses. And you need industries to come up there, wherein refining or getting the needed mineral from a particular compound done, the process is to go on. So it's all a big process. So severe environmental problems get surfaced because of the mining activity. So all these have to be worked out. Now we come to the fifth part here. Fossil fuels. See, what are fossils? Fossils are the remains of plants and animals, and these fossils have got formed millions or billions of years ago. Millions to billions, we don't know. Recently they have not got formed. All these got formed when the earth as a spherical fireball was very active. At that time, from there onwards the process was on. Then animals came into this world, plants came into this world, huge trees were growing, not the kind of trees now. Just as you had dinosaurs, even the trees and plants used to be huge. And there used to be earthquakes. Huge earthquakes. Say of the nature of 9 or 10 point on the Richter scale. 9, 10 means, now what we see now is about 4, 5 or 6. If at the range of 7, 7.5 they happen, we say it's a big earthquake. If it happens at the range of 9 or 10, the whole earth gets turned upside down. There will be a village near the mountain, let's say. That's the epicenter of the earthquake. The whole land there, you lift it and put it upside down. How will it be? In some Hollywood movies you see, they are turned upside. No one is there to survive. You can't imagine such an earthquake. Now when such earthquakes take place, these huge trees and animals, they all get buried in soil. And for the next million years or millions of years, pressure and heat. You have the heat underneath because there is no connectivity with the air outside. So lot of heat gets generated and pressure of the soil column. Due to that, the plants, trunks of plants, they start getting partially burnt and they turn into coal. Liquids get formed, they may turn into petroleum. Even microorganisms underneath, they too have a big role to play. They too have played a role in forming petroleum. And when petroleum and coal get formed, you have the natural gas too getting created. And in the pockets under the soil, natural gas gets collected. Huge quantums of natural gas. That's what we take out, and in a very restricted way we get them filled into cylinders, or they are sent to refineries, companies, industries where they are required, the fuel is required. So look here, we procure from fossil fuels mainly three things: coal, petroleum, natural gas. And you have hundreds of byproducts. For example, diesel. Diesel is a byproduct. Kerosene is a byproduct. Kerosene. Naphtha is a byproduct. Lubricating oils. Oil, what you use for lubrication in the different parts of a machine. You keep on applying oil, pouring oil there. Then the friction will be to the minimum. Lubricating oils. You have to always keep that part well oiled. If you don't oil it well, there will be friction, wear out, and the machine turns useless later. Formed millions of years ago. Remember, fossils were created millions and millions of years ago. Non-renewable. You remove coal, you remove petrol, you can't expect the earth to form it again. So continuous supply is not there, as in the case of water. Water gets renewed. We know well, water gets renewed. But petroleum will not get renewed. Once you use all the petroleum, it's over. Now the petroleum prices are going up in the market. Why is it going up? Because the utility is more and supply is less. Supply is becoming less and less. Utility is going up. Number of cars in the world, vehicles in the world, industries that are functioning, they require petroleum. Automatically what happens? Petrol rate goes up. And we keep abusing our government. Oh, petrol rate has grown. See, rice and wheat we can grow. Petrol can't be manufactured. The simple thing we people should understand. If the petrol rate goes up, very good. People will use less petrol then. There will be less pollution. It has to go up. So, here you have mainly coal, petroleum, natural gas. Even the 10th standard exam you are asked, name the fossil fuels. These are the three: coal, petroleum, natural gas. You can't say, oh, I have forgotten all that. You should remember day in and day out. Whoever asks you, you should be, oh, fossil fuels, I know. They are mainly three: coal, petroleum, natural gas. So easy, simple. Non-renewable, you can't get them again and again. You will not be able to retrieve them, renew them. Total depletion in the near future. It is said we have only that much of petrol in the world which maybe suffice for another 25 to 30 years. After that, there won't be a petroleum. There won't be petrol and diesel. We have to turn into solar energy or some other alternate form of energy. Okay, there are 4 types of coal. When I say coal, it is not one single kind of material. There are varieties again. That itself is another science. See, the best coal is anthracite. Anthracite. In certain parts of Europe and China, they get anthracite, the best form of coal. The best form of coal is the one which has 80% carbon in it. 4/5 should be carbon. Then it is anthracite. It gives you lot of energy. The next one is lignite. We get it in Tamil Nadu. Parts of Tamil Nadu, lignite. We have a lignite factory near Chennai. 50 to 65% carbon. So, this lignite is poorer than anthracite. Which is the best? Anthracite. Second in the rank, lignite. Third in the rank is peat. Peat. It has 40% carbon. Carbon amount as it goes down, the quality is said to be inferior. Then you have bitumen. Bituminous coal or bitumen. Bituminous coal has less than 40% carbon. Market value is less. Fuel value, very little fuel you get. Bituminous. So anthracite, lignite, peat, bitumen or bituminous coal. These are the 4 different kinds of coal. So as you burn these, you get lots of poisonous gases too. Because carbon quantity is less, it's all mixed up with the rest of the pollutants. Natural gas has low sulfur content. Now, in the same scale, if you come down, natural gas is the best because natural gas has very little content that is not flammable. Everything is flammable there. Everything burns in natural gas. That's why you use it as cooking gas. Cooking gas, whatever gas comes out, it is refined, no doubt, it is all used up. Still you get some smell. You get some smell. That smell is actually added. In case there is a leakage in your cooking gas system in your kitchen, you should be able to know, no? That's why they add some filthy smell to it. So even the night when you have put off everything, if you get some smell, you should not say, hey, nothing would happen. It's there always. Gas has some bad smell. It is actually a warning to you to go and check up whether there is any leakage. If the leakage continues throughout the night, in the morning as you flick it, there can be a big fire. You see fire incidences in some houses, no? Before you switch on the gas, what should you do? You have to keep all the windows open. Leave it for another 4-5 minutes. So even if concentrated gas is there, that goes out. Go brush your teeth and everything, get ready and come. By that time the kitchen will be ready for use. These are some of the precautions one should take to avoid any accident as such. So natural gas has low sulfur content. Sulfur content is low there. Hence it is least polluting. Least polluting. The best of all. So in this lesson what have we learned? Man should be able to respect nature. He should be able to maintain the balance in nature. He should not feel and think that Everything is for him. I am at the center of everything. I am the one who should enjoy. Here, we should be a part of nature. We should be a child of nature. We should be able to live with nature, understand our responsibilities. That too, being educated children, educated citizens of tomorrow, we should understand what our responsibilities are with regard to the maintenance of natural resources. Thank you.